It was a moment that had a lot of Aussie cricket fans worried. During the second Ashes test between Australia and England, Steve Smith fell to the ground after being struck in the neck.
Can't possibly stay on after that.
It's very overwhelming watching someone get hit in the face in that position. It was kind of scary in a way.
Just happened. He was like so fast and then he was just on the ground.
I felt a bit worried for him because it looked like the ball was going really fast and it probably would have hurt a lot.
After leaving the field, Smith had to pass a series of tests before he was allowed to bat again. But the next day he felt worse and he was pulled out of the match because of concussion. Concussion is an injury that involves the brain. That super important organ floats around in nice protective fluid inside our skull. But if our head were to take a big hit, say from falling to the ground or a cricket ball, well, that could cause the brain to bump around and bruise. Now, not every head bump gives you a concussion, but it is something you should take seriously. That's why experts are trained to look for concussion clues. So Andrew, you're a sports doctor and you see a lot of concussions, so how can you tell if someone actually has one?
The first thing you might think about is headache. You can also get dizzy, nauseous, sometimes you have blurry vision. Often you just don't feel right, you might just feel like your head's in a bit of a fog.
But there's more to it than that. While most people with concussion get those symptoms as soon as they're hurt, sometimes they can take a while to become obvious, which might be what happened with Steve Smith.
I'd have to say, though, he didn't play that well when he came back. Everyone was saying that, so he may have actually had some signs, even though he might have passed the test.
Concussion is an injury we hear a lot about in sport, from AFL and rugby league to basketball and cricket. In the last few years, there's been a big change in the way players with concussions are treated. In the AFL, new rules have been introduced, so players have to come off and pass some tests before they're allowed back on. They'll check if the player knows where they are, what their team is called, and if they can remember things they're told. If they don't pass, well, they spend the rest of the game on the sidelines and can sit out the next week as well.
With that concussion that he copped 2 big knocks.
The same goes for junior sport. And if a kid gets a concussion, well, they could miss out on school too.
Set!
Concussions are taken really seriously when they happen to kids, because brain injuries when you're young can cause big problems later in life. Even when they're given the all clear, young sports people shouldn't do anything for a couple of weeks that could risk another knock to the head. Experts have praised Steve Smith and the team doctors for taking extra time out after his concussion, even though it meant missing the third test. They say that was the right call, and it sends a good message to kids that while playing sport is great, there's nothing more important than keeping that big squishy thing in your skull nice and healthy.